Hi, I'm Rebecca Mander, and you are listening to the Bounce Mindset podcast. During my time as a busy mum and managing director in 2007, I managed significant personal loss and professional challenges as the only woman on the board. I believe we always have a choice, and that a resilient and what I call a bounce mindset is possible for anyone to develop. Join me as we meet some incredible guests, sharing their bounce forward stories, including my own in episode 1. I'm so excited to have you here, and also would like to thank Grow Radio Production and Stephen Bedell for Dragonfly, my very own theme tune. Enjoy. Hi there, and welcome to the Bounce Mindset podcast. I'm so excited today to be joined by Liz Jackson from Initium. As a young entrepreneur, Liz set up her first multi-million-pound company at the age of 25. And in the same year, she lost her eyesight due to a genetic eyesight condition. Despite this setback, with a bounce mindset, Liz overcame the hurdles ahead and won many awards and accolades in the process. At the age of 43, Liz decided to put her knowledge of entrepreneurial growth to a different use as part of a larger team. Liz is now the sales and marketing director of Initium, an employee-owned corporate finance firm. A force of nature, a real force of nature, Liz is in the entrepreneurial world. Liz founded the Diamonds Network for Women Business Leaders, and she was honoured in 2007 with an MBE. Wow. So I'm thrilled that she's here to share her inspiring story with us today. So thank you, Liz, so much for joining us. And I hope that introduction was okay. And I got the company name right.
You did great.
I remember we met quite some time ago. We had a chat a few years ago now. And I remember your story inspiring me then. And then when I came to do the podcast, I thought I must get Liz on because she is exactly the kind of guest I want to inspire our listeners with, those stories of overcoming a huge setback. But before we get on to that and how you did that, tell us a little bit about your early journey, your career journey before you lost your sight.
Yeah, no, sure. I can definitely do that. It's great to be chatting, Rebecca. Loving this. So, I left school with not much to brag about, if I can be honest, on the GCSE front. I managed to achieve one GCSE in drama, and I wasn't a big fan of academia. I had spent most of my school life being bored out of my brains. And so the concept of going to college wasn't very exciting, but I didn't know anything about the world of work either. So I did go to college and do some retakes for about 6 months and then dropped out and went to see a careers advisor who suggested an apprenticeship, which was a really kind of amazing piece of advice.
Yeah.
I'm so glad apprenticeships are back in vogue.
Yes.
Because lots of us learn in different ways.
Yeah.
And I guess the great joy for me was the person I ended up being interviewed by for that apprenticeship, which was an amazing entrepreneur who had been kind of, I guess, a bit addicted to starting and scaling companies. So this was his third startup. It's previously sold the last 2. I was going to be the first non-family member to join the business. And do you know what? I remember this huge weight of responsibility going in for that interview, thinking, do you know what? If I don't get this job, I'm pretty sure people might start believing that I'm a bit of a loser. There's this kind of, you don't do well at school, you don't turn up to college, you seem to like partying more than taking the world seriously. And I felt really like a bit of a weight of responsibility to get that job. And so I remember using every ounce of my drama GCSE to convince this seasoned entrepreneur that, if he didn't hire me, it's going to be the absolute worst mistake of his life. And so it really turns out that passion, enthusiasm, it is actually what a lot of entrepreneurs still quite like in somebody who's going for an interview. And at 17 years old, he said, look, I just don't need to go away and think about this. I know you haven't got, you know, the exam stats to back this up, but I think you'll do well. So will you join on Monday? So I had that lucky break, if you like, by getting a job with somebody who had that passion to develop a young person. And he was the one who said, I think a career in selling is going to be really good for you. And so I started out, you know, on the phones, telemarketing, then recruiting other telemarketers and building up a team. I then got the great opportunity to go and work in the States.
Yes.
And did that there. And so I had 8 years of just being shaped and mentored and inspired, actually by a family, you know, who ran a business, who showed me that work is a gift. It showed me how joyous it can be to build something, and how fun it can be, and how important those relationships were, and the value that I got from doing it, you know, how it sort of started to influence, you know, my own identity. And I suddenly started to feel, you know, like somebody who believed the world was their oyster, because an entrepreneur had showed me that it had been for him.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that was really my start in life, if you like, from the world of work.
It sounds like you had great opportunities, and I think they were very keen on you staying, but something made you decide to go and do something different.
I outsourced quite a bit of work to agency. So we outsourced a lot of lead generation activity, a lot of marketing and brand stuff. And I just felt really kind of uninspired by the businesses that we were using, and seemed to go through agencies, you know, every couple of years. Talent levels just weren't as good as we had internally. But, you know, we just didn't really want to manage more people. And so we were wanting to outsource, but just was really disappointed with the results that we were getting. And I started to think, you know, why don't I have a go? You know, why don't I set up an agency? I honestly think I could beat, you know, these businesses that we've been spending money with. And so this kind of germ of an idea sort of seeded itself. And I kind of shared that idea with my dad. He was like, oh, that sounds wonderful, darling. Of course you can do it.
Wow, that's amazing.
Went to see the bank manager, who was not that excited. I mean, he said, look, I think you can do it, but we won't, you know, there's no way you'll get any money. But he did let me open a bank account. And I did go and see the Prince's Trust, who were amazing.
Yes. Yeah,
just absolutely incredible. And they did give me a grant of £5,000 to start.
Yeah,
which was just enough, actually, in terms of what I needed at that point to pay a couple of months of rent and and allow me to get cracking. So,
and you really did get cracking. I think you had 18 franchises at one point. Is that right?
Yeah, so we did do that eventually. So I was probably running the business for about 10 years before we franchised. So we'd really proven out the concept, and we've just felt that was the right way to grow the company. And so, yeah, we had about 100 people working in our Basingstoke office.
Yeah.
At the time, we decided to roll out franchises across the country.
Amazing. And that business became one of the best and largest businesses within the Princess Trust, I think.
It was certainly one of the most successful companies that the Princess Trust had ever backed. Yeah.
Phenomenal. Just such an achievement, Liz.
Thanks.
And when you, but very, very early on in that journey, so way before the franchises and the 100 members of staff, you did, in fact, lose your eyesight due to a genetic condition. Tell me about that. Did that happen gradually? Was that already happening while you were an apprentice? Was that something that had always been with you? Or did that happen quickly?
A bit. So I was born with an eyesight condition called retinitis pigmentosus, or RP. And for me, up until the age of 25, that meant that I had night blindness. So I couldn't see very well in the dark, and I had tunnel vision. So my peripheral sight wasn't very good. It didn't affect, well, it probably did affect me quite a lot, but I didn't let it affect me quite a lot when I was growing up. For example, I wouldn't let anyone know at secondary school that I had poor eyesight, so I didn't get extended time in exams or anything like that. It might explain why I wasn't very
came away with one
engaged
GCSE.
within school. But I coped really, I coped well with the sight that I had. When and RP is genetic, it is a degenerate, it does leave blind. Most people go blind in their 40s when they get RP. So actually Chris McCausland has RP.
Okay.
So I mean, we've just seen him win Strictly. So
yes, yeah,
he really sets the bar for the rest of us.
He really does. He's amazing.
He is
and he's very funny. He is, absolutely.
He is. For me, I went blind over about 3 months. So, one day I could, pick up a book and read it. Following week, I, couldn't read the book because just couldn't see the words. And then, after that, I couldn't find the book. So it was quite quick in terms of how my sight loss journey was, really.
And emotionally, for a young woman going through that, that must have been horrific, just knowing that this was happening over quite a quick period of time.
It was a bit embarrassing, if I can be honest. There were moments of embarrassment more than, that was probably the emotion that I felt the most. Was, I'd just met my husband actually and fallen in love, but we hadn't been dating for ever so long. And it was things like having to say in a pub, do you know what, you're going to have to show me where the bathroom is because I can't find it. And having to say that for the first time to a boy you're, trying to convince, needs to find you the most attractive woman on the planet. He's got to help you to the bathroom. That was that was probably one of the toughest things, which is so stupid, isn't it? But everything else I managed really well. They were just problems that needed solving. So, I obviously couldn't use my computer anymore because I couldn't read the screen. So I got a PA and did all the admin stuff. And I stopped doing all the silly admin things like VAT returns, that sort of stuff. I immediately just got a bookkeeper. And looking back, actually, I would see it as a gift from an entrepreneurial perspective, because you know what it's like. If you can, you decide you're going to do it. Now, and entrepreneurs, when they're starting up companies, very rarely value their time very much. And they're not often very focused. And so because all of my time was suddenly focused on biz dev and customer relationship and team relationship and recruitment, the things that were all about human connection. And because that was my massive skill set, then all of my energies were pushed into that. And all the stuff I was really naff at got outsourced to people who were really good at that stuff. And that I think, had I not lost my sight, I don't think we would have had the growth in the company that we ended up having. Yeah, absolutely.
And, so how did you turn? Was there a specific moment when you realized your disability could be a strength or a unique perspective in your entrepreneurial journey?
I think there was a specific point where I realized it could be brilliant for PR. There weren't very many women running companies of the size that I was running. There also weren't any blind ones. And I had the kind of the double blessing, I guess, of being sort of all right on a platform. So I can speak, I can speak. And so what was really awesome is I got asked to speak a lot. And generally in front of audiences of businesses. And, when you're running a marketing business and you're talking to business owners about, your story and what you do, it actually resulted in quite a lot of work. So we won a lot of clients that route. We got written about a lot in really major publications. And so my profile grew, and of course, so did the businesses. And so from that perspective, I certainly saw it as a strength. And I think also your ability to hear commitment, excitement, passion, sadness, those sorts of things. You hear a lot in people's voices. And because you only learn about the world because you're hearing about it, I think you become really good at listening.
Right.
And I would say that became a superpower, and so did memory.
Yes.
So I have two PAs,
Yeah.
and both of them just, cover my memory, because I'll say, well, don't you remember 6 months ago we met with that guy and we met him and this is what we talked about. And so even though you seem to have,
Yes.
we've that interaction seems to have been lost somehow, I've got that in my memory bank, and I can literally memorize thousands of data points, because blind people have to.
Yes.
You have to remember where you put things, and the route around the office,
Yes.
and where the cowpole is, and how though that feels different from the ibuprofen for the kids.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
just you build up this massive memory muscle, and then you can put it to use across your work as well.
Yes.
And so that's a massive that actually is a strength, that I wouldn't have my sight back if it meant I lost my memory muscle like that, because I think that's worth more to me than eyes would be, actually.
Goodness gracious me. So you actually, you're thankful for the memory more than you're regretful of the eyesight loss.
Yeah, and there's so many other things as well. I mean, that lovely thing that I get to do that others don't, which is, you're sat at dinner with somebody that you don't know very well, and to say to the lady sitting next to you, well, do you mind, when you go to the bathroom, it's all right if I come with you. And there is something about human connection when you touch someone, you take their arm.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, somehow, I think because it's a vulnerability that I'm sharing with them, they straight away become quite vulnerable as well. And they'll often share something in their life that isn't working as well, whether that's a physical problem or a relationship problem or a business issue. It tends to come to fore because they know I've got something. And so I think I build connection really quickly, and I'm not sure I would quite so much, if I was completely able-bodied. And that again, what a lovely gift to have, to make friends easily. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a lovely gift. And I love that you notice that. And I love you've obviously been doing that for many years, noticing that and being nourished by that, as we all are, by relationships. And especially in business, people tend to refrain from being vulnerable. Even some people don't even want to share what they've done at the weekend because it makes them look human, and they think, I can't be seen as human. And so to be in a position where you don't, or you experience that less, would just be wonderful, I should think. And
I do love it.
You said in one interview a while ago that 80% of blind people of working age do not work. And that's just such a shocking statistic, isn't it?
It's just tragic, I think. I mean, I haven't looked recently to see if there's been any dent in that, but based on how many blind people I encounter, I guess, on my travels out and about in the world of work, I would say it probably hasn't changed very much at all.
Yeah.
And when you think, Rebecca, what we get from work, this great interaction with people, we get self-worth, we get value, we get to contribute. Everyone wants to contribute to society in some way. Whatever their work ends up being. And the idea that world just isn't, accessible to some people it's really tragic.
Yes.
Really tragic.
And do you think that's a confidence thing on the side of people without sight, or do you think that's more a lack of diversity and openness in the workplace and recruitment?
I don't know. I think
Mm.
it would be brilliant to spend a lot of time looking at that. I mean, at the moment, I can't remember. It was even on the news this morning where it talked about how many people of working age are choosing not to work at the moment
Mhm.
that aren't in the workforce. And if
Mm.
they were in the workforce, the difference that would make to our economy. I
Mhm.
suspect it's a fairly complex, mix
Mhm.
of reasons, but I do think there are so many opportunities to bridge those gaps. And I think it
Yes.
probably starts at school. It probably starts with, if you grow up in a household, where neither parent works, then who are your role models?
Mm.
If you go to school and you're not in an inclusive school, you're not, you go to a blind college, for example, or something like that, and the expectation isn't that you won't work, then, perhaps you don't.
Yes.
If the benefit system is, designed in such a way that actually taking the risk to go and get a job is pretty hard.
Mhm.
If you don't feel secure in stepping out of a comfort zone into a work environment, and you don't feel like there's enough understanding or enough of a wrap to help you develop the skills you need to be
Mhm.
safe at work, then perhaps that's another barrier. I don't
Mm.
know, but what I do know is that it's worth solving all of those problems, because work is a gift.
Yes.
Work is a God-given gift. It's a beautiful thing to do, and it opens the world for so many. And I think we need to solve all of those problems
Mhm.
and get Britain working. Get everybody who can in some kind of occupation that they find rewarding. That gives them that enables them to contribute and help and serve others, because ultimately that's what gets our endorphins
Yeah.
fired up, is helping
Yes.
someone else, and you get to do that all day long at work, don't you?
Yes,
So
you do. And you feel like you're contributing, as you say, and you feel
yeah.
like you've got you're sharing your superpower. And actually, if we think of people, well, I'm thinking of people who are neurodivergent, you think, well, we always talk about qualities that somebody may have, their superpowers, for example, and you've mentioned yours. I mean, goodness me, a blind person would be an amazing coach. So many coaches, or an amazing leader, because so many leaders fail to listen. They don't listen. And it's a really big struggle to listen when you've got so much distracting you, or you're thinking about I
Mm,
can be with people, or I myself could be listening to somebody but not truly listening, because I'm trying to work out what they're going to say next. We're always trying to listen with a view to responding, rather than listening with a view to understanding. And as a coach, that was something I really had to learn and develop so I could do my job. But
mm.
that ability to listen unconditionally, and without a desire to butt in, is just, I bet everyone would love that. In fact, I was working with a group of people yesterday, and we came to the end of the program, and I said, what are you doing more of? And they were like, asking more questions, listening more. That's what they're all working towards.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I think that's really, yeah, I think designing the jobs actually that people can do, in the way that the world of work is changing because of AI. I mean, I'm already astonished about the levels of expertise that I've been able to move into because of AI. And
yes.
it's like, yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. I think AI could make the world of work even more accessible than it is,
Yes.
much more accessible than it is today. And again, that's
Absolutely.
part of solving the problem, but it does need bright people to get involved and get inquisitive and solve that. But
Yeah.
for the bottom line reason is, it would be better for business to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Here, here. I'm interested to know, I have to know one of your AI tricks. I'm really into AI at the moment. So, what have you
Oh,
learned recently
many.
that's changing it for you?
Well, so one thing that I really love is the chat T now. If you use the voice functionality
Yes.
on it, the voice functionality is amazing. And as
Yes.
part of that, you can switch on the video. So if you turn on the voice, then at the bottom left, it gives you the option to turn on the video. And then you can hold it up and it'll describe a room to me. And in fact, I turned it around the other day and said, could you just help me understand if I've put my makeup on correctly? Because I'm not sure if I got a bit of mascara on my nose. And she said, don't worry, you look great. You haven't got any mascara on your nose. And then she recommended a shade of lipstick that would go with my top. So,
Brilliant.
that kind of thing is awesome. I mean, for work, I use it, for content creation and just giving me ideas. I love the fact that I can have a panel of experts that I save on chat that, I can say, right, here's my business problem. Now tell me what Patrick Lencioni, Jim Collins and Simon Sinek would say about this problem. And all of a sudden I've got some of the best thought leaders on the globe, in my Apple phone, solving my, work problem. I mean, it's just crazy. I'm loving it.
It is. And that's such a good, I've not done that before. Yeah, you could have a whole boardroom full of people. Couldn't you have a board meeting with some amazing leaders and thought leaders, past and present?
Yeah, it's making me look so much cleverer than I actually am.
As I say, it gives us ideas, doesn't it, for that content creation. I think we have to make sure that what content we're putting out there is ours, but it really helps you put, if I'm writing something, if I can just get some ideas as a backbone, it's just wonderful. I absolutely saves so much time.
You're completely right. It is brilliant for ideation, but all of us hate content that somebody has done mindlessly using AI, because you can tell the authenticity isn't there. Because you're still a personality and your thoughts and views really matter. And so if none of that character is exhibited in the content that you produce, then it's it's rubbish. But to have to not have to start with a blank page.
Absolutely.
And I just love having this a buddy that can help me think.
Absolutely. So that just sounds phenomenal, what you've covered in your professional life, Liz. You went on to receive an MBE in 2007. Tell me what that was for.
So that was for services to business, right? Which was a great honour. And what was really amazing for me was the Queen gave me my MBE. And for me, she is probably one of the best women in business we've had. She's someone who has just, manifested service before self. Mm-hmm. And I really admired her. And it made my dad and my mum just, they loved that day out to Buckingham Palace. It was a really lovely thing to have done. And I feel really blessed to have received that.
What made you decide to go and work for Initium?
Well, when I exited my business, I didn't really know what I wanted to do next. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. And so I did some consultancy, and I consulted for about 8 months, working for probably 5 or 6 different companies in really different, massively diverse industries, from healthcare to packaging, which was, really brilliant.
Yeah.
And in a number of different kinds of advisory roles. And the one that I just fell in love with was working for this corporate finance company where, I was meeting with entrepreneurs who had scaled and were selling their companies. And I started to meet the clients, and I started to see, that what we actually did was, you changed lives. It was brilliant. So one day went to 2 days, 2 days went to 3 days. And then the then CEO asked if I would become their sales and marketing director and join the leadership team.
Wow.
Which I did.
So you went straight to director level.
Well, straight from consultant to
straight into director level. Wow. So you helped a lot of people. You got a lot of rewards helping people get those amazing investments, and watched how that impacted positively their families and their lives. I've been an investor. I've been an entrepreneur for several years now, having left corporate, and I see so many people. I was on the NatWest Accelerator, for example, and I see lots of people struggling to get investment. What advice can you give people who are trying for so long to get investment, especially we know that women are less likely to be invested in. What sort of advice would you give? You've got such a great bounce mindset, Liz, seeing the positive in many things. What sort of advice would you give somebody who's really struggling to get investment?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea, thing. I mean, number one, so I had 5 grand to start my company in 1998. I lived in a flat on my own. I had rent. I didn't have any savings. All of those sorts of things. So I think, number one is, how much do you need? And what are you prepared to lay down to make your dream come true as well, I suppose. I mean, I didn't keep the same lifestyle going as a business owner as in the first couple of years as I did an employee. For example, as an employee, I got my paycheck and I could blow it every month and continue like a really great lifestyle. As an entrepreneur, there were some sacrifices. I did in those first few years. I worked very long hours. I really put my heart and soul into everything. And I guess not having much money to start the company really gave me hunger to win clients and focus. So because I had a Prince's Trust mentor, he asked me 3 questions every month: is how much have you sold, how much have you delivered, and how much cash have you collected? And those sort of, in a way, are the kind of first building blocks of business. It's not much has changed since then. So I think thinking about how much you really need, I've seen lots of people get a lot of startup money or get big grants and blow it on what I would call vanity expenditure. Then I think it's about researching who are the investors that I need to be approaching. I get lots of investment decks sent to me, and quite frankly, no one's done any research on what we do and who we help. And I see that all the time, where they're sending off investment decks where investors will put quite clearly, this is the kind of opportunity I'm looking to invest in. And there'll be people aren't really doing the research in terms of who should I be approaching, and then tailoring the approach. Why should you invest in me? This is why I see it as a really great opportunity for you because of X, Y, and so I think that's really important as well. I think there is some unfairness out there, clearly for women. I think there's more fund managers called Dave, for example, than there are female fund managers. And it is also not what so often in this, it's who you know. So you've got, building up those networks, putting you in the place where, the people that invest hang out, and don't be afraid to be pretty bold, ask for investment and know your numbers. We're all really embarrassed on Dragon's Den when they rip them to shreds. And I think that's really true. You've got to know your business plan inside and out, know your numbers. And then I guess lastly, it's about, do you believe in it yourself? People pitch an idea to you and sometimes you think, do you know what? You don't sound like you'd invest in this. So I'm sure as hell not. You've got to really, really believe in it to persuade others to believe in it.
And I know that I was thinking of all the people who'll be listening and really enjoying that bits of advice, and they're phenomenal, and they're all about all the way through today. You've talked about what you can control. It's all everything that you're talking about is like, right, what do I need to do? How can I make this easier? And it's the same when I ask the investment question. It's like, okay, but what are you doing? What are you doing to get investment? And what are you doing to fund your business? What do you hope, Liz, that your journey teaches others, your family, your friends, your colleagues? What do you hope it teaches us, people listening, about resilience and inclusion and the power of a bounce mindset?
Well, I guess the thing that, this is going to sound quite cliche, and I also know that it's quite in vogue at the moment. But I guess if I wanted to teach people anything, it would be gratitude and a zeal for life.
Yeah.
every day's special. It starts off with, it's a gift, it's there to unwrap.
Yeah.
Every day is we start with that blessing. And I think loads of us know people that don't get that, that have I'm 51. It's a privilege to have got to be 51. And I think of those that I've known that haven't got to that. And so, every day I'm full of gratitude that I get to do what I love, with people I love. And whether that's work or family or church or whatever element of my life that is, I just love that. And I just have this, I hope that people would catch this idea that helping other people, whether that is at work or family or neighbours or in your community, whatever it is, it's selfish to help someone else because it gives you such a buzz.
Yeah.
And delivering outstanding customer service, being an amazing leader or manager. We all lead in one way or another, whether that's me as a mum leading or wherever it is, we are all a leader in some capacity, and taking great joy in helping the people that are around us grow and develop and learn. That gives me such a buzz. So when you look at gratitude, being thankful, I get to eat three times a day. I live in a country that's pretty secure compared to what's going on in the rest of the world. I've got a roof over my head. That already makes me, in the 2% of the wealthiest people on the planet. I then get to do what I love with people I love. I get to help other people as often as I like every day. And that releases massive amounts of endorphins. And this is the stuff actually that will change the world. If we could all grasp that concept that you get great joy by making somebody else's day a bit better, actually that's viral, that changes the world, that makes our country a better place. And that would be, if that was my legacy, I'd be absolutely filled. And none of that is about materialism.
No.
I don't care about the house I live in. I don't care about the things I accumulate. I care about lives being, improved. And you can do that. And we can do that so much through the world of work, because that's where we spend most of our time for a lot of us.
It is. And I think for those of us listening in the world of work, taking some of that, just putting that last 5 minutes on repeat, Liz. I think I could do that. It was brilliant. I can imagine my friend walking a dog going, yes, this is it. She'd so be cheering on and agreeing with you. And I love the fact that also your faith, like mine, has played a part in your bounce mindset journey. You mentioned church, and I'm sure that that's been a big part of strength. And I feel too very blessed for that to keep me going at times when I'm not feeling so positive. But for me, it's what am I grateful for? I'm grateful for the blessing of being able to meet you and hear your story several times over. And each time you tell me something different. And, I think your bounce mindset enables that gratitude for any chink of light, the greatest, the smallest. You're grateful for them all in abundance, potentially because of what you've lost, but it makes it all the more richer, and your life is all the more richer because of it. Your relationships are deeper because of it, and you're more focused because of it. And wow, what a career you've had, what a life you've had. And I feel really honoured and blessed to have been able to talk to you today. Thank you so much, Liz.
Likewise.
Thank you. Take care, Liz.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Bounce Mindset podcast. If you would like a coach in your pocket with free regular hints and tips to help you bounce forward in your career or personal life, then please feel free to go to the Bounce Mindset podcast show notes. And don't forget to leave a review for us. Thank you. Bye.